Hey everyone, how you doing? Thank you so much for being here at the beginning of the week. I have a wonderful, fabulous guest, the one, the only, God's Little Soldier with Kickin It With Me podcast and all of the lovely things that he's been working on. Dear God's Little Soldier, please let us know how you got started and how Kicking It With Me podcast came about. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yes. So I sat on this project for 3 years, and there was a reason why, and it's because I'm a perfectionist, right? When I wanted to hit press go, when I wanted to hit go, I just wanted to make sure that I had everything that I needed to be successful. So 3 years ago, I started um, getting closer to God and walking in my faith, right? And throughout that journey, I started to understand. I started to want to put something together, right? And internally was me, I felt as though there's a lot of things that I need to get out. Like I felt like I had a lot of gems, right? And so a lot of times people like to journal. I don't really like to write. So I kind of figured that, why not I just put a camera in front of my face and just talk, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then with that, I was kind of like a sneaker collector head type of thing. And I kind of wanted to put two and two together, but the idea didn't really just didn't like fit until it hit me where I wanted to do something purposeful, right? Um, so as I'm going through this journey and getting closer to God, and I'm reading, getting, reading the Bible, I start to understand that these are documentaries at the bare minimum teaching us how to live, right? And
Right.
so we could learn from these things, right? And so when I thought about it and trying to put this podcast together, I'm like, we all have stories, right? We all have a story that we can, learn from, right? And so that's when it hit me. I was like, okay, I think I got something, right? And then with the sneaker thing, it was like, okay, I could, how can I incorporate that? And it all came together where I could use this shoe or this sneaker
Mhm.
as a symbolism or a reflection of their journey, right? Where that pivotal moment of transformation. And so again, I sat on this project for 3 years, and I wanted to really put something together in the podcast world, but separate myself as well. So what does that mean?
Right.
That means, so how can I separate myself, right? So instead of just having a regular conversation with somebody, I want to go on a journey with them, right? I want to go on that journey and understand from baby you to where you are now and where that pivotal moment was, and really capture that, right? Because that pivotal moment of transformation, those are the stories, right? Those are the stories that we could learn from. And so, yes, it's a podcast, but it's really a documentary type of format. And
Mhm.
so, when I thought about that, I was like, that is how I could separate myself, right, from the competition. And then, I started again because I had 3 years to really think about this. I started to, watch other documentaries, right? I started to understand, psychologically, what what makes anything that you produce creatively um timeless, right? And it's
Right.
music, right? And so with music, if when I think about a classic movie, right? Besides, the actors and the content, what else helps make the movie a classic? It's the music, right? And so back in 2019, I created a record label company, ran with an artist, and we created this EP. And it's, self-motivational, really on work ethic, right? And I started to say, wait, I own the masters to this, right? Why
Mhm.
not incorporate that with the podcast? So that's when
Mhm.
it dawned on me when I was like, you know what? The first season is going to be about work ethic, right? And I think it's so important nowadays to understand, if you want something, right, and you're striving for something, nothing's ever handed to you. I'm gonna be honest, like I'm 40 years old, about to be 41 next month, and I've yet to have someone literally hand something to me and be like, "I see what you're doing. Here you go." Right? It's going after it. It's failing and it's making mistakes, right? And it's preparing and being dedicated and committed to the process, right? It's being disciplined, right? And it's being having that perseverance, sacrifice, and then ultimately, when you hone in on all these characteristics of work ethic, you become unstoppable. So
Hmm.
that's how this podcast in season one came about.
Okay. I get what you're saying. I'm looking at your website, which has the same title, Kicking It With Me podcast.com. And it's really good because it has motivation Mondays, personal growth Tuesdays, worship Wednesdays, thorough Thursdays, forgiveness Fridays, Sabbath Saturdays. I love this. Save Sundays. And these are the types of things that you discuss with your guests and things.
So, yep. So with that schedule, right, when you scroll back up, you get to see there's social media icons there. That means that those are, items that I would just jump on social media and give gems, right? So motivational Mondays are typically gems that I've either written down for the past 3 years since I've been preparing, right?
Mhm.
And really just giving little gems here and there, right? Personal Growth Tuesdays is really when I drop an episode of that one-on-one guest, and it's the reflection of that personal growth, right? That pivotal transformation, how they became, where the, how they who they became, who they are today, right? And
Mhm.
then again, Worship Wednesdays is just letting in a little bit an insight of me and my life, right? What I do as far as worship. The reason why I say this is
Okay.
because I don't I don't want to come off as preaching, right? I'm not telling people what to do, how to do it. However, I will be an example and let people know what I do, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
then thorough Thursdays is typically a panel, right? And so the panel reflects that one-on-one conversation. The reason why I did that is because that one-on-one conversation is one perspective, and life is all about perspective, right? And
Mhm.
so when I thought about this, all my one-on-one guests are all men, which is great, but that's one perspective, right? And so I decided that, what, I wanted a panel of maybe, women and business as well, to give that other perspective. So if I'm interviewing someone on commitment, which is the first episode, right? The panel is supposed to be women entrepreneurs that also reflect their commitment and what they're doing in business or whatever they may be doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I
And then
love it.
forgiveness Fridays, again, is just insight on me, right? And what that may look like, maybe some gems on forgiveness, right? And then Sabbath Saturdays, which is the day of rest. It's typically your story time with me, which I have yet to start. So I'm not completely consistent with that, but I do have a plan. There's a book on my website. It's called Overcoming Tough Times. And the reason why that book is because that book has changed my life. That book is the book that got me closer to
Okay.
God, that got me in my faith, right? And the reason why I say that is because I'm not really the one to read a lot of books, and the Bible to me seems very like it's like another language, right? And
Right.
so this book is like a summary and a synopsis of everything in the Bible, but in layman terms. And it was a perfect read for me, and it changed my life. So for
Mhm.
that, if it changed my life, I know it could change somebody else's life.
Right. Exactly.
And then Save Sundays, I typically would go live for 30 minutes. So the audience and people on the other side of the camera could have that intimate time with me, right? And I'm gonna be honest, I've yet to do that as well. So those are the only two things that I'm really not I haven't been consistent with, but I'm starting to implement it once the first episode drops.
No, that's understandable, and but I'm glad that it's here because it's good for people to know what's coming up.
Exactly.
And so, what type of guests do you have, and what does your panel look like? And then I love all the merch. We can talk about the merchandise in a little
Yes.
bit, but I want to talk about your guests and your
Yes.
panel.
So the guests, so my one-on-one guests are people who reflect work ethic, right? So I broke down ethic into 8 different characteristics. So for instance, commitment, preparation, dedication, discipline, sacrifice, perseverance, persistence, and then eventually unstoppable, right? So those are 8 characteristics. I'm interviewing 8 different people in my circle who I felt who's who's demonstrated the highest level of that characteristic, right? And so when you look at those guests, 3 of those guests are artists, right? And if you go to the music tab, you will see the 3 artists that I interviewed out of the 8. And so the first one would
Okay.
be Bobby Krills, right? Bobby Krills is actually the guy, and that's me in the hat. To his left, right? The
Mhm.
um that's with me with short hair. And so that's when, back in 2019, where I created the music label, and we created this EP, which is like self-motivation, work ethic, right? And so I'm interviewing him, and he's highlighting
Mhm.
sacrifice. And so on this soundtrack, we have I think we have 5 to 6 of the songs out of the 8. So we have 6 out of the 8 songs on the soundtrack, which I own
Nice.
the masters to. So it just made sense. And then when we scroll down, you'll see Mel the Prophet, right? So Mel the Prophet is actually the first episode on commitment. And
Okay.
when I thought about commitment, he's the first person that popped up into my mind, because this is a person who I seen when he started his music career, right? And when
Hmm.
he started his music career, he's been committed to the process. He's been
Hmm.
committed to his his craft. And back in 2019, 18, 19 till now, you see every year he's coming out with a new project. Every year, and it gets better, right? His artist development is getting better, right? The full production is getting better. And he just came out with this song called Know Yourself, and it's just divine time. So the crazy thing is, 3 years ago, I reached out to him. I'm like, Mel, listen, I want to interview. What do you think? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And then I didn't reach out to him until 3 years later, full circle, right? 2025. And I'm like, Mel, listen, I'm ready. And I told him about the vision, and I told him, like, I since you're an artist, I want to use one of your songs. And he goes, I already got a song. I was like, okay. I was like, well, I want to create a music video. He was like, perfect. I don't have one yet. Right. And I'm like, all right, awesome. I was like, it just worked out. And I think what's most exciting for all of us is that I honestly believe that song, Know Yourself, is going to break him as an
Mhm.
artist.
That's
And so
love.
you get
Love.
to see, like, there's a link where it says listen to Spotify. That
Right here.
goes to his Spotify, where obviously the audience could go back and see their work, and then become a fan, right, eventually. And then if you
Right.
scroll down,
No,
there's
it's great. I love.
another artist as well, the last artist.
Yeah, we'll go to this one here.
Yep. And then running back boss, right? He is perseverance, right? And when you get to understand his story, um he's been through a lot, right? And he's also one of my business partners as well. He actually flew in from Houston, right, to get this in-person interview, and so we could shoot his music video. But when it comes to perseverance, he's been through a lot. He's lost a lot of loved ones, close loved ones in his family, where he actually witnessed them passing away. Which, it's hard, and at a very young age, and to see his growth and his transformation, and not giving up, because I feel like anyone that has been through something like that, I mean, it's justifiable for you to be, a really, you could just go in a different direction, and just say, you know what, it life isn't fair, right? And he
Mhm.
didn't do that.
Right.
He really, persevered through all that pain and trauma. And if you look at his life right now, he's living the dream.
That's great.
Hmm.
So yeah, I finally got the Mel the Prophet Spotify up, and as you can see, we can see the names of the songs like New Pain, Help Oneself, Know Yourself, Lo Siento, and Feelings.
Yeah,
And then there's a see more button, of course, and then you know, and so that's I want everybody to go listen to this though. So
yeah,
I wanted to show it real quick.
I appreciate it.
There.
But you also see on the bottom of my website, the
Hmm.
music plays there as well. And then you could actually
Yeah.
go to
Okay.
YouTube,
Cool.
Apple Music, Spotify. You could play it, you could stop it, you could, eventually you're gonna be able to download the music, buy it.
Yeah, I did get to Mail the Profits through this button here on your website. That's how
Okay.
I got to it. But then, of course, it opens like another tab, so I had to.
Yeah.
But
So
that was
there's a
your
yeah,
website.
yeah.
You have a lot of you have a 5-star review on Google, so that's always a good thing because it says you are helping so many people. Over the past 15 years, I've had the opportunity to know Marcus, which is your name as well. Dope podcast. Can't wait for season 2. Being part of Kicking It With Me was something special, super inspirational. People just love it, love you, love everything about it. So that's wonderful. Mhm. The name of the production company, the LLC, is Faith by Me Productions, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I know that one came before Kicking It With Me podcast. The, uh, how hard was it, or what was that like starting off with the production company?
Actually, the production company came later, right?
Oh,
So
okay. No
yeah,
worries.
so
I
as
get
I
you.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I get you. I get you. No, we're good.
Yeah.
Keep
So
keep telling us about that.
yeah, so as I'm putting the podcast together, because the Kicking It With Me was an idea before the production, right? So as I'm
Mm,
putting this, podcast slash docu series, with all these music videos, right? Because if you really think about what am I really creating here, right? So the umbrella is a podcast, right? And then underneath this umbrella, because the interview isn't just a podcast interview, is more so like a documentary type of format. It's really a docu series, right? And
mm-hmm.
so when I understood, like, okay, podcast docu series, right? I'm also filming and shooting and directing, right? And executive producing music videos, right? And then with the panels, because the target is women in business, now I'm creating trailers, right? Short films for them, right? And so when I think about all these things, I'm like, wait a minute. I could offer these same things that I'm producing for myself to other people. You know,
Right.
this whole platform that I'm creating, even with the merch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, is not just for me. It's to highlight others. What do I mean by that? That means that this platform is geared towards people who are business owners who have their own merch, right? And if they align with with my movement, I'm more than happy to partner up with them and do some affiliate marketing with them, right? Season 2 is going to come out, and what's going to happen? There's going to be another soundtrack album, right? But I want to reach out to other artists, and so that I could bring them onto the platform and highlight them. Whether it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be an interview. It could just be their music, right? Same thing with other entrepreneurs who have businesses, right? If they have businesses, this is your opportunity, you know, for my production company to come in and highlight your business, and then I could give you the content that could last you for 2 years. you know so when you think about all these things that I've created under one umbrella, my mind starts to go and say, you know what, Marcus, you got to create the production company, which hence Faith by Me Productions.
Exactly. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Okay, and lastly, let's talk about the merchandise. I'm looking at it. It's beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
love the yes, I love the message on top
Hmm.
of the
Yes.
branding
So
and the logo. Go ahead.
yeah. So Faith by Me. So before Faith by Me was ever a thing, it was just the Kicking It With Me, right? And so when I think about how what can I create to reflect the movement, Kicking It With Me on a shirt or on a sweatshirt isn't it. And so, since I'm in my faith, I was really asking God, like, hey, what is it that could reflect my faith, that could really, um, and that's when it dawned on me, because as I'm thinking about my faith, I thought, like, no one could determine my faith. No one could tell me what my faith looks like, right? Hence, Faith by Me. And then I pondered a little bit about it, and I started to understand that my faith doesn't look like your faith, right? My faith doesn't look like the person down the street's faith, right? And so it's universal. And so that's when it hit me. It was like, Faith by Me, that's it. And so then, I just wanted merch or something that people could wear that reflects their faith, whether they have faith or not. And if they have faith in whatever religion it is your faith. It's literally universal. And then as you scroll down, you'll see, like first season, commitment, perseverance. So what I
Yes.
decided to do was create a design for that particular episode. So when that episode drops, there's merch that reflects that episode, right? And
Mhm.
so, there was a lot of thought behind this. There was a lot of, communications and, graphic designing with my graphic designer. So, this is not just a podcast, it's a full production.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. I get it. I understand. I love everything that you're doing. Thank you so much, God's Little Soldier, for being here and telling us about Kicking It With Me podcast and,
I appreciate
all
you.
of the wonderful things that you and everyone is working on and excited about, the episodes dropping and the production company and the docu series that comes along. And I mean, it's so much love and passion and hard work and dedication and commitment, and you're doing it. And thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you.
Any last words of wisdom to anybody that's you know maybe trying to understand how all of this operates, or anybody that, oh, and by the way, Kicking It With Me podcast, all of the links are in the descriptions, in the comments, so you can check out the website we were just going over. And also, you know what what type of people are you looking to work with, and things like that, if you'd like to share with us.
No, absolutely. So if your heart is beating, right, that means you have a story, and that means you're the type of person or candidate that I would love to interview, right? But I think the biggest takeaway here is for me is that I've mastered the art of receiving by learning the art of giving.
Mhm. That's really important.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. That is perfect. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, God's Little Soldier, for taking the time and for connecting with us and teaching us things and sharing your soul and all of your hard work with us.
No, thank you.
Remember,
I appreciate it.
everyone. Yes, thank you. Remember, everyone, be kind. This world needs a lot more kindness. Be kind to others in person, online, but also to yourself. Be kind to yourself. That's really important as well. So, thank you, everyone, and
Yes.
have a fabulous rest of the week.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy. Bye bye.